Okay, so we are going to talk about the digital divide, specifically at Reading schools, and some strategies to fill in the gaps created by that divide. So let's start to look at the data. This first set of data that I want to go over, I think, is a little outdated since it's from March of 2020, but I do think it's good data because we really tried hard to get every student to respond. This was done in school before the pandemic, just because there were talks of a possible closure. We wanted to get an idea of how many students had Wi-Fi and how many students had a device at home. So of the students surveyed, which was most of the students in the school, 16% said that they wouldn't be able to connect to the Wi-Fi to internet at home. And this was for either the reason of not having internet connection or that they didn't have a device besides their parent's cell phone that would connect to Wi-Fi. The next set of data I think is a little less reliable. It was from our superintendent who sent out a survey in the summer of 2020, asking who had internet access and whatnot. Obviously, it's a little difficult for people without internet access to respond to an internet survey. So that's why I think this is not as valid of information, but it gives us a little bit more details on exactly why they're not connecting to the internet. So possibly some people were doing this on a cell phone, even though they don't have Wi-Fi at home. So we keep that in consideration as well. So 712 people responded back to the survey. So this was like a voluntary survey that was sent out. So not everyone responded. So of the 712 people that responded to the survey, you can see that more than 600 said that they did have internet and Wi-Fi. So that's pretty good. But then again, let's think about how those who don't have Wi-Fi would probably be less likely to respond to the survey. Then we also ask questions like, what device are you using? Some of them said just the only device they had was the temporary loaner from school. You can see that there's also people that responded that said that multiple family members share a single device, which obviously has some implications on the students' remote learning. But then almost 400 out of the 712 said that each child in their family had a device. So of that same 712 people, we asked, will your student have access to a device, any kind of device for remote learning? So you could see almost 89% said yes. So they have access to some type of device. It might be a shared one. It might not have reliable internet connection, but they do have access to a device. So that just really talks about whether or not they had Wi-Fi or not, device or not, but there's other considerations when thinking about the digital divide. You can also think, at least in my school, a common problem is a lost or damaged device, because most of their devices are the school issued device. If it gets lost or damaged, there is a charge for that. So we need to consider that some very low income families may not report a lost or damaged device, especially if it's damaged, like a screen crack or something like that. A student might continue to use that to avoid the fee, but obviously their schoolwork is going to be impacted by the damaged device. This also goes along with tech accessories, chargers specifically. Again, they have to pay for a replacement charger. So there are students who lose chargers and then don't report it because they can't pay for the replacement. So they go without internet connection at home. They just rely on charging their device at school. The same thing with headphones. Students that don't have headphones, if they're at home in a small apartment shared with lots of other children that are also trying to do homework, headphones would be a necessity. It would be very difficult to do work, listen to lessons when other students are listening to a different lesson right nearby. If they have Wi-Fi, but it's really low performing Wi-Fi, and it goes in and out, that's going to have implications. A lack of subscription services can be considered as well. Now, it's not something we would think of like, oh, they need access to Netflix or Disney Plus. But just something to think about, that if you were giving an assignment where they had to, review a certain movie or something like that, not all of them are going to have those subscription services too. So I saw this quote in the article written by Hannah in 2021. It said, even among populations with some access to technology, the digital divide can be evident. So even if our data shows that a lot of students in the school district have Wi-Fi connection and access to a device, there's other things that come into play that also makes that digital divide. So how does this look at Reading schools? Well, we have created an unfair playing field. If you expect students to do work outside of school on the internet, that's a lot more easily attainable or possible for some families than others. So just for those various reasons that we've talked about. If most communication is done through email or through the website, again, parents with not very reliable Wi-Fi are going to be less likely to be informed. So what kind of suggestions can we look into to try to bridge that digital divide? I read that article about the Coachella Valley School District in Northern California and how they had several families without Wi-Fi connection. So they put Wi-Fi on their buses. They were long commutes, so students were able to log in on their bus ride to get some schoolwork done. They actually even went a step further and parked those buses outside of low-income neighborhoods in their district to offer that Wi-Fi for extended time to those neighborhoods. We can look into the different free internet access programs that they have specifically for students in the Cincinnati area. I found one through Alta Fiber, so I put a link there to look at it. We can have information nights for parents to show them these options for free or low-cost Wi-Fi. In terms of lost chargers, I think offering charging stations in the cafetorium before and after school would be a helpful way to get students to charge before they start school and charge before they leave for home, so that we can kind of bridge that gap before they get or find their charger.